All right, everybody. I'm moving on to the second book that I read in 2020. If you want to go check out the first one I read, I'll put the link to that in the description below, as well as the description to, or the link to, just the Amazon link to this book where you can go and check it out. I also listened to this one before on Blinkist. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll listen to a book, the short form on Blinkist, and then if I feel like it is going to be really, really valuable to me, then I will go and buy the full version or listen to the full version on Audible or something like that. I'll get the full version some way. So I'll put the link to Blinkist below as well. It's a really great tool that I use still. It's a nice short condensed version of all these books. And then I'll also put the full link to this book below. So this one, The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, it's amazing actually, the way that it changes your thinking on a lot of things. So mainly for business and for life. So he talks about finite games and how those are basically the games that we normally think of, all the sports games, right? There's a agreed upon set of rules. The game is going to end at a certain time. Everyone tries to play by this within the rules. They keep score, and by the end of the game, whatever the time period is for that game, there's going to be a definitive winner. Okay. Infinite games like life and business do not have an agreed upon set of rules. There can be no winner because the game really never ends. And the goal is simply to stay in the game, especially when it comes to business and life as well. You want to live and be healthy for as long as you possibly can. So, when you try to think of things like business and life in terms of a finite game, like if you start thinking of those in that type of thinking, then that is when he talks about a lot of businesses that kind of stray off path and start not having as much success as they did when they were under a more infinite leader or a person who thought with a more infinite mindset. So I'll get into a couple small points about this book here. He talked about having a just cause or needing to have a just cause to push you forward and to think more infinitely. So this is a big driver for a lot of businesses and people. It is a just cause is a state, like I say there, that does not exist yet. So it's an ideal that we want to get to, but we maybe never will. So it's something you're constantly chasing, but it's a reason, it's like a source of motivation for you to keep pushing, to keep dreaming, to keep working super hard. And it's kind of the sense that you are serving a greater purpose or you're serving something bigger than yourself. So there's this huge just cause that feels that like it feels good to you to want to keep pursuing this thing. It makes you feel like a better person, or like you have more meaning and you're really providing value with what you're doing. So that was a big mindset shift, or something good. I think that people need to shift their mindset to worrying about feeling like they're making a really, really good contribution to the world and not just worrying about the short term, like profit. He says you can have multiple. You can either make your own or you can choose to hop on with somebody else's vision that you truly believe in. And then he talks quickly about what a just cause is not. So a lot of times people say their cause or their reasoning for their business is just to be the best at blank. You maybe hear that from a lot of businesses. We're the best at whatever. But that is not a just cause. They're the best at a very specific thing over a very finite, specific time period, right? So they might not be the best at it tomorrow. Someone else could pass them. So that's not necessarily a very good anchored just cause at all. Growth was another one. So your just cause shouldn't be to grow your business by like to double your business in the next 2 years or whatever. That's not a just cause at all. Those are just a couple examples of what the just cause was not. He talked about the need for a new title for a CEO. Everyone thinks that CEO is like the top position to be at because they know everything, but basically a CEO should be the guy who's kind of outside of the business, looking at the future and the overseeing the big vision of of the business, so to speak. Um, he's kind of is arguing for a title change there. Um, and all the other people involved in the business are the ones that execute the plan. This person kind of comes up with the big plan and delegates. Um, we also need to have strong will and trusting teams. So what this means is you're not putting resources or income, sales. You're not putting that before any one of your team members or your staff. So you want to build a team where like the truth doesn't hurt. So if you're giving feedback to somebody, they shouldn't be hurt by it. You want to build a community and a relationship in that workplace where constructive feedback is valued and it's not seen as like you're just harping on people all the time. So that was a big thing, to build trusting teams, as well as just to have hire people that are in line with your just cause. Because if they don't believe in your just cause, then your team's not going to be all on the same page. They're not going to trust each other. There's going to be back and forth all the time that isn't healthy. And then another thing he talked about was ethical fading, which basically means when people do end up putting profit first and they'll just kind of they don't really care about their employees so much or the people they're helping or the people they're supposed to be helping. They're just valuing profit or their own personal benefit before their company's benefit in the long term. So this is when people start usually thinking a little bit more short term with a finite mindset. This ethical fading starts to come out a little bit more. Um, yeah, profit above all else, and who cares how we get it. That was a line from the book. Um, Last couple things that I'll talk about from this book where he talked about worthy rivals. So the biggest example from this book was the Apple and Microsoft rivalry, or where Apple saw Microsoft as a worthy rival, but Microsoft kind of viewed Apple as their direct competitor. So the difference between that is Microsoft got so obsessed with simply beating Apple that they kind of forgot their vision and their long-term goals. They were just so set on one thing, whereas Apple kind of like didn't really worry about what Microsoft was doing. They kept track of what they were doing, I guess, but they stayed focused on their vision and their mission and their just cause, and that actually helped them to differentiate themselves from Microsoft. They learned from Microsoft and kind of were able to still do their own thing, and were obviously super successful. Microsoft's problems happened when they switched CEOs or switched leaders, and who started thinking a little bit more with a finite mindset, um, and they were just worried about beating the other. So that kind of comes down to how you view other people, whether it's in business or in life. If you like, you don't want to think of people as enemies. Think of them as like a worthy rival to you, who you can help, who maybe can help you. You can learn from them, but you also can differentiate yourself and be your own distinct person or your own distinct business. And then the last one there is existential flexibility. So this is again thinking with an infinite mindset. You're adapting to change as the world is happening or as these changes happen. New technologies come out all the time, right? So maybe you're always thinking, how can I implement this into my life, into my business? And then he basically said, yeah, you can either embrace them in order to change and become stronger, or ignore them and fall behind. And the example of this was Kodak. So Kodak was like, basically they had almost the entire like the photography industry on lockdown, basically, until this digital age came out, and they didn't want to go digital, which now today we can see that that was a huge mistake, right? So not changing with the technology that's coming on, not being open to new ideas, can kind of get you stuck in that infinite mindset or in that finite mindset, and not stay in this infinite game. So I would really recommend this book. This was another good one. If you are wanting to think or have strategies and need examples of why it is so much better to think with an infinite mindset in life and in business, this one is huge. Bringing it back to like life and maybe as a coach, you want people to think as long term as they can, right? Short term, it's good to have short term goals to help keep them going and keep them motivated and keep them on track, but there needs to be an overarching cause or a reason why your clients or the people that you're working with are going where they, or there needs to be a big reason, right? There can't just be it can't be something like, I just need to lose 20 pounds. Well, what happens when they do lose 20 pounds, right? They might lose it and then they don't have a bigger why or a bigger reason behind it that they've thought about yet. And then they aren't motivated anymore. And maybe they just gain all that 20 pounds back. So a bigger reason why could be like, I want to stay fit and be healthy in my 80s and 90s and be independent, or I want to be able to keep up with my kids and not feel, I want to be able to, have energy and have them tire out first. So those are bigger reasons why when it comes to maybe coaching and fitness, that you can apply. There's always ways you can apply the stuff you learn from these type of books back to your own personal life. And that's how I'm choosing to apply this one to my personal life as a coach. So yeah, like I said, I'll put the links down below if you want to listen to the short version on Blinkist, or go right to Amazon and you can order this book or listen to it on Audible. Those are 3 options for you. This one was super good. Enjoy the read.